Have you ever really stopped and thought about the invisible architecture that holds our entire digital world together? I mean, every single photo you post, every email you send, every movie you stream, it all has to live somewhere. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and dive into this hidden world to understand exactly how it all works. Just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, let's start with a number: 100 trillion. That's the estimated number of objects stored in Amazon's S3 service alone. To put that in perspective, that's more than 10,000 objects for every single person on Earth. The sheer volume is just mind-boggling, right? And managing it is one of the biggest challenges in modern computing. So how in the world do systems handle that kind of scale? When you click save or upload, where does that data actually go? And how is it organized so you can find it again in a blink of an eye? Well, we're about to find out. Let's journey into this fundamental technology and explore the three main ways our data is structured and stored. And to make it easy to grasp, we're going to use some simple analogies. Think of it like this. We'll compare a familiar old filing cabinet to a massive, hyper-efficient warehouse, and finally, to a sophisticated valet parking service that's designed for a practically infinite number of data cars. And along the way, we'll see how one seemingly small change in Amazon's storage service didn't just improve a product, it completely unlocked the potential of big data analytics and literally redefined how modern applications are built. All right, let's get into it. We're starting with the fundamentals. There are basically three main models for storing data, and each one has its own unique personality, its own strengths and weaknesses. First up is file storage. This is the one we all know and love. It's basically a digital filing cabinet. You've got your files, your JPEGs and your Word docs, and you stick them in folders. And those folders can go inside other folders. It's super intuitive, it's hierarchical, and it's perfect for your personal computer or a shared drive at the office. Okay, next up is block storage. For this one, you gotta completely change how you're thinking. Forget about folders and file names. Instead, picture a gigantic warehouse where your data is chopped up into these uniform, fixed-size boxes, or blocks. Each block gets its own unique address, so a computer doesn't need to dig through folders. It can just go directly to the address of the block it needs, instantly. This makes it incredibly fast, which is why it's the go-to for things like databases that need crazy high performance. And that brings us to the third type, object storage. This is our valet parking model. Think about it. You don't park your own car, you just hand the keys to the valet. It's the same idea here. Your data, along with a whole bunch of descriptive info, what we call metadata, is bundled together into a single, self-contained object. It's given a unique ID, which is like your claim ticket. You just show your ticket, and the system finds your object for you, no matter where it's parked in this massive, flat lot. This is the magic that makes it almost infinitely scalable. So this table really lays out the trade-offs perfectly. You can see block storage just wins on raw speed, but look over at object storage. It's the undisputed champion when it comes to scalability and that rich, customizable metadata. And file storage, it's simple, it's familiar, but it really starts to sweat when the amount of data gets huge. The big takeaway here is that there's no single best system. It's all about picking the right tool for the right job. So that's the theory, but let's see how this actually works in the real world. To really understand object storage, we're going to pop the hood on its most famous implementation, Amazon S3. That stands for Simple Storage Service. At the very heart of S3 is this concept of the object. And an object isn't just your raw data, the image or the document. No, it's that data packaged together with all its metadata. And this metadata can be basic stuff, like when the file was created. But it can also be super rich custom information, like who is in the photo or which scientific experiment this data belongs to. It's a self-contained little package. The whole process starts pretty simply. First, you create what's called a bucket, which is just a container for your objects. Then, when you write an object to that bucket, the S3 system completely takes over. It finds the perfect place for it and makes sure that that change is copied across its massive global infrastructure, so your data is always safe and always accessible. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. For years, S3 operated on a model called eventual consistency. It was a brilliant design for what it was built for. But as the world changed, the demands on the system changed too. And that led to a monumental shift in its architecture. You have to understand the philosophy behind building systems at this scale. This famous quote from Amazon CTO, Werner Vogels, says it all. Everything fails all the time. You absolutely have to design for failure from day one. So S3's original design prioritized availability above all else, meaning you could almost always get your data even if parts of the system were down. But that availability came with this tiny trade-off. Eventual consistency meant that for a split second after you updated an object, a read request might get the old version of the data. Now, for things like website images, who cares, right? It was totally fine. But for big data analytics, where thousands of computers are all crunching the same data set at the exact same time, that's a deal breaker. You need strong consistency. Every single read has to see the absolute latest version of the data instantly with no exceptions. So just imagine the engineering challenge here. How do you fundamentally change the consistency model for over 100 trillion objects, spread all across the globe, without slowing things down, without raising prices, and without sacrificing that legendary availability? I mean, it was a truly monumental engineering feat. They had to rewrite the rules for a system that was already operating at an unimaginable scale. S3's whole evolution just hammers home how critical it is to match your storage architecture to what your application actually needs. So let's bring it all back together and get really clear on when you'd use each of these different types. File storage, our good old digital filing cabinet, is still perfect for things like shared network drives at work, content management systems, and just general small business storage. Basically, anywhere a human being needs to easily browse and organize files themselves. Block storage. Our high-speed warehouse is the clear winner for anything that's performance critical. We're talking databases, virtual machines, and any big enterprise software where every single millisecond of delay actually costs money. And finally, object storage, our scalable Valet service. It is built for the massive, messy, unstructured data that defines the modern world. It's absolutely ideal for backups, hosting media, and most importantly, for building those enormous data lakes that power today's big data analytics and artificial intelligence. So we've gone from simple files on a hard drive to these globally distributed, strongly consistent objects that literally power entire industries. It really makes you wonder, as technologies like AI and quantum computing start to generate data on a scale that we can barely even comprehend today, what will the next storage revolution look like? What will the next valet service for data have to be? What kind of architecture will we need for the zettabytes of tomorrow?